This theory is made for Bully Baby, who requested I talk about this character, so let's do some theorizing. Run that intro! Basil Hawkins, captain of the Hawkins Pirates. Basil is one of the 11 supernovas, aka the worst generation. His current bounty is 320 million, but the most notable thing about him is his power, or should I say powers in the plural tense. Hawkins is a very mysterious character since we barely know anything about him. In fact, the only things we do know about him is that he'll always be calm in a situation, no matter how dire, can predict the future, and has a devil fruit power, which I will get into later. Trying to come up with a historical background of Hawkins at this point is impossible. There's really nothing to work off of. Even when I looked at his real-life counterpart John Hawkins, there wasn't much to go off of. I could compare these two in my own perspective, but that's just it. It's just my perspective. The parallels I can make about these two won't be 100% solid, but I could point out the small observations I made. Even though it'd be weird to compare these two since while Basil Hawkins is a fortune-telling pirate scarecrow, John Hawkins was a navigator, shipbuilder, and slave trader. Oh no. Well, Mr. Hawkins, you're not winning any popularity awards anytime soon. I'm just gonna edit you in the corner there. Now think about what you've done. Reflect on your life, which is it's gonna be hard. Since you're dead. Anyway, even though we can't do a full history check on Basil, we can at least try to figure out his powers, which in turn can link to his personality and character. So let's get right into it. Let's take a look at this scarecrow and see what lies behind the straw. Good God, I am running out of usable puns on these theories. So let's start off by looking at Hawkins' ability to see the future. The big question here if there's a special trick behind it. There has to be some scientific explanation as to why Hawkins has this ability, right? Actually, the answer I came up with is no. Looking into the situation, I came with the conclusion that seeing into the future can be a natural ability for a few people. So far in One Piece, we have two confirmed users of fortune-telling. Basil Hawkins and Madame Charlie, or Aqua Waifu, don't judge me. So after looking at these two characters, I think this is the way fortune-telling can be done. First off, there has to be a connection to extrasensory perception, or in shorter terms, ESP, or even in another word, psychic. In terms of One Piece, I think ESP has a link to one's haki. In real life, there's a constant debate of whether all of us have ESP, or only a few can harness the power of ESP. I think in One Piece, it's a little bit of both. Everyone in the One Piece world has haki, but only a good amount of people can actually use it, and then only a select few can actually use it in coordination with an ESP ability. I think it's another parallel Oda made to state that everyone has this spiritual ability, but its unique powers can only be made to a few others, letting both sides of the ESP debate be right. But that's not all it takes to be a fortune teller. Sure, you can have all the ESP mastery you want, but in order to foresee the future, you have to have a medium. A medium is a tool that allows others to focus on aspects out of our natural control. While Madame Charlie has a classic crystal ball, Basil Hawkins uses levitating cards. How can they levitate nowadays? I'm just going to chalk that up to psychic again. I believe that's the extent of Hawkins' psychic abilities. With an ESP that's linked to haki and a medium, he can see the future. And he's been right at his predictions too. He was right when he predicted that Luffy would survive Marineford, and even though he, along with his fellow supernovas, got brutally beaten by Kizaru, Hawkins did make the prediction that he and his fellow supernovas would survive the deadly encounter. Speaking of his encounter with Kizaru, let's finally look into Hawkins' devil fruit power. So like the other supernovas, we know what Hawkins' devil fruit can do, but we also don't know all the details and limits about said fruit. This is where a lot of speculation is done because there are a number of possibilities for each supernova and their fruit, particularly Eustace Kid and Julie Bonnie. We don't know their limits, but we have a basic idea of what they can do. So let's just try to analyze and understand Hawkins' fruit before we jump to any conclusions. So Hawkins' devil fruit has two abilities, but neither of them seem to be connected with his ESP. The first ability is being able to transform into a straw monster. In the manga, this is called the Demon's Phase, while in the Funimation dub, it's called the Demon Conquering Phase. So right off the bat, we can assume that Hawkins might be able to transform into other entities or phases, and whether that links back to his ESP is again speculation. Anyway, Hawkins' demon phase grants him great strength in battle, but really, that's about it. In fact, his weakness is noted right after he transforms. Hawkins may be more powerful, but now he's a bigger target, and as seen from Kizaru's skirmish with Hawkins, Hawkins is not invincible. I believe Hawkins is a paramecia fruit user. Since Zode fruits allow animal transformations and Logia fruits offer elemental transformations, paramecia fruits revolve around material transformations. The most notable paramecia is of course Luffy with his rubber body, but Hawkins falls into that same territory as well. Straw isn't an element, rather a material object, but thanks to Hawkins' second fruit ability, his weakness can almost be compensated. When Hawkins receives pain through an enemy's attack, he can then reject that pain to little voodoo dolls that pop out of his body. So is that process simple? A little, but no. I want to say that any damage Hawkins would get would then be transferred into straw from his devil fruit and it would then be expelled from his body. However, that's only half the case. Since Hawkins expels voodoo dolls when absorbing the pain, the damage is not only transferred to these dolls, but the pain is also transferred to another person. Again, whether this is linked to ESP is pure speculation, as this ability may just be another power of the devil fruit. However, this power also has a weakness. Hawkins has a limit as to how much damage he can absorb and redirect. He still fell to Kizaru, so Hawkins can only produce a limited amount of voodoo dolls. Another factor might be that since this voodoo power needs other people to work, if there's no people around Hawkins, then he can't redirect damage. So after all of that, I think that's the extent of Hawkins and his devil fruit. He has ESP that allows him to see the future, his paramecia fruit allows him to transform and allow him to absorb and redirect physical pain he would receive, and because of his ESP, he doesn't seem to have much emotion. He always remains calm and collective. Only when he lost to Kizaru did he show any real concern. So is there a secret truth behind Hawkins, or can we figure out his life story? No, not at this point. But what I can do is go into those observations I made about comparing Basil Hawkins to John Hawkins. For instance, John Hawkins was a navigator. This could be an influence on Basil's ability to navigate his ESP through a medium and see the future. And while there aren't really any comparisons with John's shipbuilding skills, there is an unfortunate connection to the whole slave trader thing. It's a long shot, but perhaps Basil's ability to direct pain to unsuspecting people that don't have powers, aka those who are weaker than him, may be a parallel to John's slave trading days. And as of right now, there is no connection between the two Hawkins in depth. While we don't know Basil's future, John Hawkins' fate was sealed a long time ago. According to history, John suffered from a disease out at sea. So who knows if that will have any connection to Basil Hawkins in the future. Unfortunately, that's all the information I can give out. Basil is a supernova, so he will play a large role soon in the story, but as of right now, we can only do our best analysis with what we've seen. He's too shrouded in mystery to make an accurate background check and life story theory. But I hope that I was able to put out something of interest for all of you, and especially you, Bully Baby. And that is all for this episode of One Piece Theories, or Analysis, gotta put that in the title. If you want to keep up with me on a daily basis, follow me on Twitter at TrevorTiger7, and if you're curious about the music or footage used in this episode, please check the description, as all information is posted there. And I will see all of you legends in the next video.